Since the Independent National Electoral Commission released a new timetable and schedule of activities for the 2023 general election, some political parties have expressed their concern over their ability to meet the timelines given by the Commission. To discuss this and the Electoral Act 2022, we're now being joined from Abuja by Osita Okechukwu, a founding member of the All Progressives Congress and Director General of the Voice of Nigeria, who will also be talking to us about the remedies available to appointees of President Muhammadu Buhari who would have to resign from their appointments to participate in the electoral process in compliance with the new Electoral Law. Good morning, Mr. Okechukwu, and welcome to the show.
Good morning.
Good morning, Osita Okechukwu. Thank you for joining us. Well, I mean, we've been discussing...
Good morning, Doc and his crew.
We've been discussing this issue about 2023 general elections and, zoning consensus within the APC. Will you say that the All Progressive Congress, your party, is ready? And then also, I see of late I read some stories. You have to confirm whether those stories are true or not. You seem to be even having problems with your own party and with your own administration that you defend almost on a daily basis. Who is after you? What have you done wrong that you found yourself in the eye of the storm? Those two issues as departure points for this conversation.
Permit me to start by thanking Mr. President, the distinguished senators, the honorable members, Attorney General of the Federation, the civil society organizations, my colleagues in the media, and Nigerian patriots in general, for the Electoral Act. For that, the Electoral Act has laid the foundation for the growth and prosperity of democracy in the country. And for me, Mr. President had validated vote rigging vaccine. And on that step, all the political parties, especially the majors, the APC and the PDP, had to realign. INEC had taken that step. Immediately, Mr. President validated the Electoral Act. INEC went to town. And I think that political parties should act like a mobile force that moves according to the dictates of the war front. So I do not see anything that would jolt any political party that is ready for the 2023 general elections. Because earlier on, INEC had posited a date of February, and they have maintained that almost. The shift for me is not too distant from the earlier dates. And for a party like my great party, the APC, the caretaker committee, convention planning committee led by His Excellency Buni, had already prepared ground for such emergency. So for us, the issue of zoning we have taken care of. The issue of, we have said there's a swap between what have been in the north will go south, and what have been in the south will go north. So as Malame Rufai said, it makes it simple, fair, and uncumbersome. At that rate, the APC is not in any way challenged. What the new Electoral Act has done for the country and for the political parties as well is that it had demonstrated that the battle has shifted to the polling units, where Section 472, from 47 to Section 60, 63, had made it the battle to be at the polling unit level. And they had also said that the polling officer, the presiding officer, had to accredit and at the same time transmit the result. So if you can transmit the result at the polling unit level, it then means that any political party that wants to succeed had to go back to the grassroots and talk to the membership and the supporters and the electorate in general Today is no more the day where you wait. When they bring the result at the local government level, you will start padding it. If out of 100 voters at the polling level and 20 turns up or 10, that 10 would be the decider. So I do not see my political party, the APC, we are not jolted. That has been the good job the caretaker and the caretaker extraordinary and convention planning committee led by His Excellency Buni had. They had laid that foundation for us, and on that foundation we stand.
Well, I mean...
well, you didn't answer Dr. Abati's second question about your current travails, if I put it that way.
Yes, I wanted to know.
No, I do not have any travail, actually.
Who did you offend?
No, I didn't offend anybody. The matter was that when I was appointed in 2016, I found myself in the radio house, and I asked them, who owns the radio house? So they said it's Radio Nigeria. And I said, where is the location of Voice of Nigeria in the master plan? They told me it had been considered to the Yaradua Center. I said, where are we now? They said we have a plot allocated to us in near Bayes University. I said that should not be the face of the Voice of Nigeria I want to preside over, because that we were more popular when it was only one Radio Nigeria and one Voice of Nigeria. But today, with the entry of Ray Power, there are over almost 1,000 radio stations who have been kind of crowded out. We need to be stationed where we could be seen. And as God will have it, I searched for the dotted houses where EFCC was written. And luckily, Tony Dara, one of my friends, said, are you looking for a befitting house for Voice of Nigeria? I said yes. So he took me to where we are today. And by October, I wrote to Mr. President, and graciously he endorsed in principle the allocation of the building to us. And the late Chief of Staff referred me to the EFCC. And when I got to the EFCC, the then chairman of the EFCC, Ibrahim Magu, he told me there are other houses. And they took me to the place. I said, Chairman, no, that's not the house I'm looking for. That the one we spotted is the one my heart goes to. He said, guess what? I said, no. He said it is under interim forfeiture. So the battle for the interim forfeiture was part of what they called my attention to. Because from that 2016, we channeled all our efforts to the new building. And all the money we got, we paid the contractors for the finishing of the building, the demarcation, the genset, and the furniture and the others. Unluckily, the final forfeiture did not come the day we paid. It didn't come the year we paid in 2017. It didn't come 2018. It came finally in 2019. And by July, the EFCC handed over the building to us. That is in summary what I can say now about why I was called to the EFCC.
Well, thank you for that clarification, sir. So my question is about the committees. A list of committees being chaired by several governors, including Governor Sanwo-Olu, Governor Abiodun, Uzodinma, Bello, Umahi, and then other, important APC stalwarts like Senator Omoagege and what have you. Even the Attorney General was slated to chair a committee, all in preparation for the National Convention, was released, but then promptly withdrawn when state chairman of APC complained that they were not consulted. What can you tell us about that? What is now the status now that the list has been withdrawn? Are those names going to be cancelled? What's going to happen now?
Let me tell you, there's a village talk in where I come from. The big market. We have two markets in my town in Eke. They are the small market, and there's the big market, the Eke market. So the villagers will tell you that the Eke market makes more noise than the other market. So today we belong to a political party that if you become a governorship candidate, the chances of becoming a governor becomes very high. We are in charge of 22 states. We are also in charge of the National Assembly, and most state assemblies. So you can imagine that if the market called the APC bubbles, nobody should be surprised. If you are in a missionary party, I don't want to mention the names, and you become a presidential candidate, even your wife will know that you are not going to. Your chances of becoming a president will be very, very low. So, but if you become a chairman of the APC, for God's sake, national chairman of the APC, or presidential candidate of the APC, for God's sake, you can go to bank. So that is why you see a lot of noise. I thought that the caretaker committee, for raising almost 700 to 800 membership from across the nooks and crannies of the country, just to prepare for the convention, that they mean well, and it is also participatory, which is the ground norm of liberal democracy. So even if you change 10 times, there will still be people who will say they were left out. The chairman should understand some of them are very new, and some of them are coming from states that is still contentious, their chairmanship. So I do not begrudge them, but I will say that they should also understand that with the INEC timetable, if I'm a chairman of Enugu State, for instance, my concern today should be how best should I do a seamless primary that will throw up those who will be in sync with the larger voting population in my constituency. Because in liberal democracy, we are taught that all the population of the political parties do not get up to 30 or 40% of the voting distribution. That the voters are more in number than the membership of the political parties. So if I'm a chairman of a political party, for instance, my concern would be, I will look into the vote rigging vaccine Mr. President has signed into law, that you do not, because Osita Okechukwu is your friend, go and impose me in Enugu State to be a governor. If you know that the electorate do not want me, that we are doing a disservice to the APC if you do so. So the best a chairman should do now is to collectively consult with membership of our party, look into who is better qualified to go for the State House of Assembly, who is better qualified to go for the Federal House, who is better qualified to go to the Senate, not his preference. The era of imposition has gone. Even the same Electoral Act said if you call it consensus, you must get the buy-in of your fellow contestants. So it's no more a consensus by lip service. The Electoral Act have made consensus to be concrete. They have made it reasonable and more trustworthy. So I think that the battle has shifted. It's no more the battle of who is the national chairman at Abuja or who is the chairman at the state level. It is now, how do you get the party leadership and membership to be in one page with the electorate in your area? Yes, you might think of how to rig before, it has gone and is gradually going. The vaccine had come. That is one of the greatest legacy of President Muhammadu Buhari and the 9th Senate and the civil society organizations and our colleagues in the media, that nobody can wish it away. It's been practiced before, but now it is in black and white in our law books. So it has become the Bible or the Quran of our electoral process.
Okay.
Until any other thing happens.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Mr. Osita Okechukwu. Lasisi Olagujo wrote an op-ed yesterday, and he talked about the Kabiyesi mindset in our politics. And he said the APC couldn't get anything done without President Buhari. They had to wait for President Buhari to come in and wade in and have a meeting with the governors before they decided on where to go. He further stated that in January, the APC said they were going to have convention on the 26th of February. In February, they couldn't get their acts together. Now they've pushed it one more month further to the 26th of March. A lot of people are saying probably by March, they might not get their acts together. They might push it further down the road. Recently, the election timetable came out, and the APC started scampering. The timeline is 3rd or 4th of June. You have to produce a presidential candidate. Now, you don't even have a party chairman to start with. You've not even done primaries. How are you going to wriggle around doing party chairman, primaries first? I mean, how are you going to do a convention first to get your own party chairman and leaders across board in your party? And also get a presidential candidate out by that June deadline. And you tell me there's no fire in the mountain. A lot of people say there is fire on the mountain, but there's also something called denial. And your party is living in denial.
Let me start by your first line, that the naysayers, those who Buhari had done this, Buhari had done that, Buhari had done that. They are the same naysayers that swore that Buhari would not sign the Electoral Act. In fact, one of them went to the extent of saying that if he signed the Electoral Act, he would kill himself. Luckily, nobody is dead yet. They are the same people that said when Malami comes, Malami will tell Buhari not to sign the Electoral Act. The 3 governors, the 4 governors, they have gone to Buhari and they said he should not sign the Electoral Act. And earlier, some of us have come to this kind of medium and other media, and we said, when Buhari wrote back to the National Assembly, what he pointed out were the direct primaries. That why are you trying to make the direct primaries as the only, that is not democratic, that it should be opened up to include the direct, the indirect, and the consensus. And he was brought back to his desk. And he said, that's good. That's leadership. I don't think it's question of KBAC. It's question of spirit argument. Anybody that knows Mr. President knows that he consults. In fact, some people goes ahead to say that he over-delegates. The same president that you say over-delegates, over-consults. On the other hand, today, somebody is saying he's a KBAC. So, I don't know how to go about that, but we'll take it that it has happened throughout history. That in liberal democracy, it is the duty of the electorate or the constituents to query their leaders and to give the label. But as President Buhari said, he says when he goes, the Nigerian people are free to write their own history about his legacy. So, Mr. President never in life, he never arrogates himself the monopoly of wisdom or the monopoly of power. He never did. So anybody that talks of KBAC, I think the person is dead wrong. He have proved them wrong by validating the vote rigging vaccine. So the vaccine will be there in the next 100 years. I do not think that any regime will come again to try to amend it and say we should go into the manual system where we kill ourselves at the collation center, or where Togri will have a high ball. So the issue of KBAC and the APC did not arise. The last meeting that I attended a few nights ago, we were using the toothbrush to study the Electoral Act 2022. And we were focusing on 47, down to 50, 51, 60, 61, 63. You can imagine an Electoral Act that said the presiding officer can do recounting, but only once. So even if you are almighty, you cannot change it. He goes ahead to say that if any polling unit did not use the smart card reader, that unit should be cancelled. And collectively, it could be repeated under 24 hours. But if INEC finds, if it's not repeated, and INEC finds under the doctrine of substantial compliance, that it not doing the election will not vitiate the result, the outcome of that election, the result is announced and it stands. I think that's a perfect. I think that the Electoral Act have become the main issue. The transmission of results, the transmission of the electronic accreditation and transmission of results is the key to that Electoral Act. It's the baby.
Okay.
Are there any political party that either by omission or commission that neglects that will be taking suicide? We've seen it happen in Anambra. We went there. Some of those who led us to the place also thought it would be as usual. The same smart cadre that did this work.
Okay.
I think that what the media we should do in the media today is to talk of the electorate for a high turnover of voters, because the low turnout of voters is very, very worrisome. And I think the Electoral Act should correct that.
Okay, you are right. There are many aspects of that electoral bill that are very good, and even civil society groups have said so. On the KBC thing that you were talking about, the first person to talk about the KBC syndrome in Nigerian politics was Professor Niyo Shundari on the pages of Newswatch magazine in the 80s. And in that regard, he was even talking about godfatherism, the monetization and all of that. And it's unfortunate that decades later, that has not disappeared. Whether there is KBC syndrome in APC or not remains to be seen. But since you brought up the issue of the electoral bill, I would like to ask you about Section 84 of that new act that the president says, if public office holders are required to resign their positions before primaries, it will amount to a violation of their rights under Section 40 and 42 of the Constitution, which I do not think are the applicable sections of the law. What do you think of that? And do you think the National Assembly should even bother itself to take a second look at it? Given the fact that Section 66 of the Constitution already says, look, if you're a political office holder, 30 days before the election, you should stand down. What the new law is saying is that, in fact, you should do so earlier, much earlier. Quickly, we have just about a minute to go.
I think that Mr. President means well. Means well in the sense that the liberal democracy, there are conventions that have been laid before even you talk of the law with its legal teeth. There are conventions. It's not only the president that appoints aides. The governors do same. The chairman of local councils, they do same as well. All he's looking at is the fact that I think those who promoted that provision of the Electoral Act, we are trying to go for extra meat. We don't need extra meat now. All we need is to, I've always said that democracy is not a revolution. The growth roots in liberal democracy throughout history have been on a gradual run. I think Mr. President means well. He said you don't pull everything down together. Because even the National Assembly that he included it to advance that, they themselves, if anybody tells them to resign and go for re-election, would they do the same? Do we break down government activity because we are going for an election? Do you know how many thousands that were appointed by chairmen of local councils, governors, and presidents that are interested in going for election? I think what is existing is enough, that if you bid for a party slot and you do not get the candidature, you return back to your work. You return back to your work, it becomes seamless. But if you want to pull down everything because you are going for election, it means you incapacitate the executive. The harm might be a little in your purview, but if you do a deep analysis, the harm will be, the collateral damage will be very heavy. I think that's what Mr. President is trying to avoid.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Osita Okechukwu, for joining us on the morning show. We thank you very much.